The hardest problem in clean energy isn't making power, it's storing it. Have you ever had a power cut at home? The lights go out, the fridge stops humming, and suddenly you realize how much you depend on electricity every single second. Now imagine that happening to not just your house, but an entire city. And yet, most of us never think about it because electricity has always just been there. Here's your problem. They must produce exactly as much electricity as people are using at that exact same moment. Not more, not less, exactly. If too much energy floods the wires, it can fry electronics. If little flows, the lights go out. And the biggest problem standing between the world and clean energy, the grid has almost no ability to store what it makes. Why electricity is different from everything else. Think about the things we use every day. Water, you can store it in a tank. Food, you can put it in the fridge and it'll wait for you. Gas, you can put it in a pipe or a canister. But electricity is almost impossible to store directly. Electrons don't sit in a wire the way water sits in a bottle. They have to keep moving, and they have to be used the moment they are made. It's like trying to fill a bathtub while someone keeps changing how fast the drain empties, and you're not allowed to spill a single drop. Two kinds of power, dispatchable and variable. For the past 100 years, this balancing act was manageable. Traditional power plants, the ones that burn coal, gas, or oil, are what engineers call dispatchable. That means you can turn them up or down on command. If an entire city suddenly switches on its air conditioning on a hot afternoon, the grid operator calls up a gas plant and starts. Just like that. Solar panels and wind turbines don't work that way. They produce electricity when the sun shines and the wind blows, not when humans tell them to. Energies call this variable. The energy is free and clean, but it arrives on nature's schedule, not yours. The daily storage problem. Here's where storage becomes urgent. On a sunny day in California, solar panels flood the grid with cheap electricity all morning and afternoon, often more than people actually need. Grid operators end up paying people to take the extra power because they have nowhere to put it. Then around 5 o'clock, everything flips. The sun starts setting, so solar power drops fast. Wind can help, but wind is also variable. Some evenings it blows, some evenings it doesn't. You can't command it to show up at 5 o'clock every single day. Meanwhile, millions of people come home, turn on their ovens, their televisions, their lights, and that happens every day, like clockwork. The grid suddenly needs the equivalent of 15 large power stations worth of electricity reliably and within a couple of hours. Right now, most of that backup comes from gas peaker plants, kept on standby just for these moments. They're expensive, they pollute, and they sit idle most of the year. The clean answer is simple to describe. Store the extra midday solar power and release it when you need it. The hard question is, what do you store it in? There are three main ways the world stores energy: lithium-ion batteries, pumped hydro, and green hydrogen. Each one solves a different piece of the puzzle. The most familiar answer is lithium-ion batteries. The same chemistry inside your phone, just built at a much, much bigger scale. The cost of these batteries have fallen by about 90% just since 2010. The more you build, the cheaper they get, exactly like solar panels. For storing electricity for a few hours, capturing the midday solar surge and releasing it at the evening rush, Lithium-ion batteries work brilliantly, but they have a limit. Storing electricity for days, weeks, or whole seasons. A battery big enough to power an entire city for 1 week would cost more than the city itself. Pumped hydro, the world's biggest battery, is made of water. Here's a fact that surprises almost everyone. About 90% of all the grid-scale energy storage in the world today isn't batteries, it's water. The technology is called pumped hydro. When electricity is cheap and plentiful, you use it to pump water up a mountain into a high reservoir. You store the water there, hours or even days. When you need the electricity later, you open a gate. The water flows back downhill through turbines, and you get the electricity back. It's a giant rechargeable battery made of gravity and water. The catch? You need mountains. You need exactly the right geography, years of construction, and billions of dollars. You can't build one in the middle of a flat city. Green hydrogen, storing seasons at a steep price. Batteries handle hours. Pumped hydro can handle days. But what about whole seasons, like storing summer sunshine to use in the dark winter? This is where green hydrogen comes in. The process is called electrolysis. You pass electricity through water and it splits into hydrogen gas and oxygen. You store the hydrogen in tanks or underwater or underground caverns. Months later, you convert it back into electricity. But here's the catch. For every dollar of electricity you put in, only about 30 to 40 cents comes back out. 2/3 of the energy disappears as heat along the way. That's a very expensive way to store power. Most scientists think green hydrogen will end up being more useful for things like making steel or fueling ships, industries that are hard to run on batteries. The gap no one has solved yet. Here's the honest picture. Batteries, good for hours, getting cheaper every year. Pumped hydro, good for days, but only in the right places. Green hydrogen can cover seasons, but loses most of the energy. What the world doesn't have yet is a cheap, efficient way to store electricity for 1 to 4 weeks. Why does that matter? Think about Canada in January. Days are short, weeks can go by with little sun and almost no wind. And that is exactly when people need most heat and light. Even if every power plant in the world switched to clean energy tomorrow, you'll still need weeks of backup storage for those long, dark, windless stretches. Right now, there isn't a good answer to that problem. Scientists are working on new ideas. Batteries made from rust, liquid air stored in giant tanks, compressed air pumped into underground caves. These technologies exist. None of them are ready at the scale the world needs. Not yet. If you could invent one thing to solve the storage problem, what would it be and how would it work? Leave your answer in the comments.